The unconventional professor. The gleaming spires of the Galactic University of Sciences pierced the lavender sky of Centauri Prime, a testament to the collaborative achievement of a dozen spacefaring races. As the twin suns crested the horizon, bathing the campus in a warm golden glow, Dr. Alexis Reeves stood at the entrance, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. At 35, Alexis was young for a tenured professor, but her groundbreaking work in xenobiology had earned her this position. She adjusted her environmental suit, a necessity on this alien world, and took a deep breath of recycled air. Today marked her first day as the new interspecies biology professor, and she was determined to make an impression. As she strode through the corridors, Alexis marveled at the diversity around her. Crystalline Arcturians glided by on fields of energy, while serpentine slick slithered alongside floating Medusan scholars. The air was filled with a cacophony of translator-assisted conversations, a symphony of intergalactic cooperation. Alexis reached her classroom and paused at the door. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see her students filing in, a veritable menagerie of alien life forms. With a final adjustment to her suit and a quick check of her lesson plans, she stepped inside. The chatter in the room died down as all eyes, and other sensory organs, turned to face her. Alexis smiled, her expression visible through her helmet's clear faceplate. "Good morning, class," she began, her voice clear through the room's translation field. "I'm Dr. Alexis Reeves, your new interspecies biology professor. Before we dive into today's lesson, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and learn a bit about each of you." A tentative appendage rose from the back of the room. It belonged to a gelatin, a semi-transparent being that seemed to ripple with curiosity. "Yes, you in the back," Alexis nodded encouragingly. "Professor," the gelatin's thoughts translated into words, "we were informed that you're from Earth. Is it true that it's a Deathworld?" Alexis chuckled, having expected this question. "Yes, by galactic standards, Earth is classified as a Deathworld. But I prefer to think of it as a world of opportunity and adaptation." A collective murmur rippled through the class. Alexis could sense the mixture of fear and fascination emanating from her students. She decided to seize the moment. "In fact, let's use this as a starting point for our first lesson. Today, we're going to explore the concept of evolutionary pressure and how it shapes biology across different worlds." She activated the holographic display at the center of the room, bringing up a 3D model of Earth. Earth's gravity is 1.2 times stronger than galactic standard. We have extreme temperature variations, from scorching deserts to freezing tundras. Our oceans cover 70% of the planet's surface and contain predators that would give nightmares to most spacefaring species. The class watched in rapt attention as Alexis cycled through images of Earth's most fearsome creatures, great white sharks, tigers, and even seemingly innocuous animals like the platypus and its venomous spurs. "But here's the interesting part," Alexis continued, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "These harsh conditions didn't just create dangerous creatures. They also gave rise to beings capable of adapting to and overcoming these challenges. Humans, for instance, have spread to every corner of our world, from the highest mountains to the deepest seas." She paused, looking around the room. "Now, I'd like each of you to share a bit about your home world and the unique biological adaptations your species has developed." Over the next hour, Alexis listened intently as her students described worlds that boggled the human imagination. There was Zix-9, a gas giant where the floaters evolved gossamer-thin bodies to ride the violent currents. Crystallia, the silicon-based world of the Arcturians, where life formed in the hearts of giant geodes. And Oceania, the water world of the cetaceans, with cities built in the eyes of planet-spanning hurricanes. As the students spoke, Alexis noted their growing enthusiasm. They were starting to see their own worlds through new eyes, recognizing the remarkable nature of their own evolutionary journeys. "Excellent contributions, everyone," Alexis said as the last student finished. Now let's take what we've learned and apply it to a practical exercise. She tapped a few commands into her datapad, and a holographic display shifted to show a barren, rocky world with a thin atmosphere. This is Epsilon Eridani, recently discovered and currently uninhabited. Your assignment is to design a hypothetical life form that could thrive in these conditions. Work in groups of 3, and don't be afraid to get creative. Remember, life finds a way, often in the most unexpected forms. The class buzzed with excitement as students grouped together, their disparate physiologies creating unique challenges and opportunities for collaboration. Alexis moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement. As she watched a Medusan and an Arcturian debate the merits of silicon-based versus carbon-based life for their hypothetical creature, Alexis felt a surge of pride. This was why she had become a teacher, to foster understanding and spark curiosity across the boundaries of species and worlds. The rest of the class flew by in a whirlwind of ideas and theories. When the signal for the end of the session chimed, Alexis was surprised to find herself disappointed. She had been so engrossed in the students' projects that she had lost track of time. "Excellent work today, everyone," she announced as the class began to pack up their various study implements. "Please submit your designs by the next session. We'll review them together and discuss the viability of each life form." As the students filed out, chattering excitedly about their projects, Alexis noticed a small group lingering behind. They approached her somewhat hesitantly, led by the gelatin who had asked about Earth at the beginning of the class. "Professor Reeves," the gelatin began, its form rippling with what Alexis interpreted as nervousness. "We were wondering, could you tell us more about Earth? About what it's like to live on a death world?" Alexis smiled, touched by their curiosity. "Of course. How about this? Next class, I'll bring some hall recordings of Earth's various biomes. We can discuss how life adapts to each unique environment." The students' excitement was palpable, even across the vast gulf of their biological differences. As they left, animatedly discussing what they might see, Alexis felt a warm glow of satisfaction. She had connected with her students, bridged the gap between their worlds and hers. Gathering her materials, Alexis made her way to the faculty lounge. As she entered, she noticed a group of her alien colleagues huddled around a table, their conversation dying down as they noticed her presence. She recognized a few faces: Dr. Zixlith, the Arcturian quantum physics professor, and Dr. Sislisthor, the slick expert in interstellar navigation. "Ah, Dr. Reeves," Dr. Zixlith's crystalline form chimed, the translation field conveying a tone of forced politeness. "How was your first day of teaching?" Alexis smiled, choosing to ignore the underlying tension. "It was fantastic. The students are incredibly eager to learn, and their diverse perspectives bring so much to the classroom." Dr. Sislisthor's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "We couldn't help but overhear some of the students talking about your unconventional teaching methods, a practical exercise on the first day." "Yes," Alexis replied, her enthusiasm undimmed. "I believe in hands-on learning. It helps the students engage with the material in a more meaningful way." The other professors exchanged glances, their alien features difficult for Alexis to read. Finally, Dr. Zixlith spoke again, his crystalline structure vibrating with what might have been concern. "Dr. Reeves, while we appreciate your enthusiasm, we must remind you that many of our students come from protected worlds. They're not accustomed to the intensity that a being from a death world might consider normal. We wouldn't want to overwhelm them." Alexis felt a flicker of frustration, but she kept her voice calm and professional. "I understand your concerns, but I believe we do our students a disservice by underestimating them. The universe is vast and often dangerous. Our job is to prepare them for that reality, not shield them from it." A tense silence fell over the room. Alexis could sense the discomfort radiating from her colleagues. She was about to speak again when a new voice cut through the tension. "Well said, Dr. Reeves." All heads turned to see Chancellor Kivex entering the lounge. The Chancellor was 1,000, an ancient race known for their wisdom and diplomatic skills. His long, sinuous body was draped in the ceremonial robes of his office, and his 4 eyes regarded the assembled professors with a mixture of amusement and stern authority. "Chancellor," Dr. Slisthor began, "we were just discussing—" "I heard," Kvex interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "And I must say, I find Dr. Reeves' approach refreshing. Our university has always prided itself on pushing boundaries and fostering innovation. Why should our teaching methods be any different?" Alexis felt a surge of gratitude towards the Chancellor. She had heard he was progressive, but she hadn't expected such open support. Kvex turned to address Alexis directly. "Dr. Reeves, I look forward to seeing how your methods develop. Please, don't hesitate to come to me if you need any support or resources." With that, the Chancellor nodded to the assembled professors and glided out of the room, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind him. Alexis took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her colleagues' stares. She knew she had a long road ahead, convincing them of the value of her approach. But the enthusiastic response from her students and the Chancellor's support gave her hope. As she prepared to leave, Dr. Zixlith approached her, his crystalline form shimmering with what Alexis hoped was a gesture of reconciliation. "Dr. Reeves," he began, his tone more genuine than before, "perhaps we got off on the wrong foot. Would you care to join us for a meal? We'd be interested in hearing more about your teaching philosophy." Alexis smiled, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. "I'd be delighted, Dr. Zixlith. And please, call me Alexis." As they made their way to the university's multi-species cafeteria, Alexis felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had come to the Galactic University of Sciences not just to teach, but to learn, to bridge the gap between worlds and species. It wouldn't be easy, but as she had told her students, life finds a way. And so, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, Alexis began to share her story, her vision, and her hope for a future where the diversity of life was not just accepted, but celebrated. The journey had only just begun, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead. Clash of teaching methods. As the days passed, Dr. Alexis Reeves settled into a rhythm at the Galactic University of Sciences. Her classes quickly became the talk of the campus, drawing curious students from other departments who would sit in just to experience her unconventional teaching style. However, this popularity also brought increased scrutiny from her fellow faculty members. One particularly eventful morning, Alexis strode into her classroom, her environmental suit gleaming under the soft bioluminescent lights. She carried with her a sealed container, which she placed carefully on her desk. "Good morning, class," she began, her voice brimming with excitement. "Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating aspects of Earth's biology, our immune system." A chorus of greetings echoed back, the translator field harmonizing the various alien vocalizations. Alexis could see the curiosity in their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, as they eyed the mysterious container. "Now, I know many of you come from worlds with controlled environments, where exposure to pathogens is limited," Alexis continued. "But on Earth, our bodies are constantly at war with microscopic invaders. Our immune system is our defense, and it's one of the most complex and efficient biological systems in the known galaxy." She tapped a command into her datapad, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing a magnified view of human blood cells. "These are white blood cells, the frontline soldiers in our immune army. They're capable of identifying and destroying a vast array of pathogens." As she spoke, Alexis noticed a commotion at the back of the room. The door slid open, and in walked Dr. Slisthor, accompanied by 2 other professors she didn't recognize. They stood silently at the back, observing. Alexis hesitated for a moment, then decided to continue with her lesson. She reached for the sealed container on her desk. "To demonstrate how our immune system works, I've brought something special today." She opened the container, revealing a Petri dish filled with a clear, jelly-like substance. "This is a sample of my own blood, mixed with a harmless earth bacterium. We're going to watch in real time as my white blood cells hunt down and neutralize the invaders." A gasp rippled through the class. One student, a Medusan named Xyloxa, raised a glowing tentacle. "But Professor, isn't that dangerous? Exposing us to Earth pathogens?" Alexis smiled reassuringly. "Excellent question, Xyloxa. The bacteria I've chosen is completely harmless to non-Earth life forms. Plus, this petri dish is sealed in a quantum field. Nothing's getting out." She placed the dish under a powerful microscope, linking it to the holographic display. The class watched in awe as the magnified view showed white blood cells chasing and engulfing the bacteria. "Observe how the white blood cells move," Alexis explained, her voice filled with passion. "They're not just randomly bumping into the bacteria. They're actively hunting them, using chemical signals to track their prey." The students were captivated, asking questions and pointing out details they noticed. Even the observing professors seemed drawn in, despite their initial skepticism. As the class neared its end, Alexis prepared to wrap up the lesson. "For your assignment, I want you to research the immune systems of your own species. How do they compare to Earth's? What unique adaptations have they developed? We'll discuss your findings next class." Just as she finished speaking, the door burst open. Chancellor Kivex slithered in, his usually calm demeanor replaced by obvious agitation. "Dr. Reeves," he said, his voice strained, "may I speak with you outside for a moment?" Alexis nodded, trying to hide her confusion and concern. "Of course, Chancellor." Class dismissed. "Don't forget your assignments." As soon as they were in the hallway, Kivex turned to her, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "Dr. Reeves, I've just received an urgent communication from the Board of Regents. They're concerned about reports of your teaching methods." Alexis felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "Concerned? In what way?" Kivex sighed, a sound like rustling leaves. "They feel that exposing students to potentially hazardous Earth biology is reckless. There's talk of suspending your classes pending a full review." Alexis was stunned. "But Chancellor, everything I've done has been within safety protocols. The students are never in any real danger." "I understand that," Kivex replied, his tone sympathetic, "and I support your methods. But the board, they're more traditional. They're calling for an emergency meeting this afternoon. I'm afraid you'll need to defend your teaching approach." Alexis straightened her shoulders, determination replacing her initial shock. "Then that's what I'll do. Thank you for the warning, Chancellor." As Kivex slithered away, Alexis leaned against the wall, her mind racing. She had known her methods might ruffle some feathers, but she hadn't expected this level of pushback. Still, she believed in what she was doing. She just needed to make the board understand. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation. Alexis gathered data on student performance, compiled safety reports, and prepared a passionate defense of her teaching philosophy. Before she knew it, it was time for the meeting. The board chamber was an impressive sight, a vast circular room with tiered seating to accommodate the various physiologies of its members. Alexis stood in the center, feeling small but unintimidated. The head of the board, an ancient Arcturian named Ixolotl, called the meeting to order. His crystalline form glowed with an inner light as he spoke. "Dr. Alexis Reeves, you have been called before this board to address concerns about your teaching methods. How do you respond to the accusation that you are endangering our students?" Alexis took a deep breath, then began to speak, her voice clear and confident. "Esteemed members of the board, I understand your concerns, but I assure you, the safety of my students is my highest priority." She activated a holographic display, showing data from her classes. "Since I began teaching, student engagement and performance have increased by 40%. More importantly, their understanding of complex biological concepts has deepened significantly." Murmurs rippled through the assembled board members. Alexis pressed on. "Yes, my methods are unconventional. But the universe is unconventional. Our students will face challenges we can't even imagine. By exposing them to controlled, safe encounters with unfamiliar biology, we're preparing them for the reality of a diverse and sometimes dangerous galaxy. Dr. Sislisthor's forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. But Dr. Reeves, your background as a Deathworlder makes you uniquely resistant to dangers that could harm our more delicate students. How can you justify exposing them to such risks? Alexis turned to face him directly. With all due respect, Dr. Sislisthor, by labeling our students as delicate, we do them a disservice. They are the brightest minds from across the galaxy. They are far more capable and adaptable than we give them credit for. She gestured to her data display again. Every experiment, every demonstration in my class is thoroughly vetted for safety. The risks are carefully calculated and controlled, and the results speak for themselves. Chancellor Kivex, who had been silent until now, spoke up. If I may, I've observed Dr. Reeves' classes personally. Her students are engaged, enthusiastic, and learning at an unprecedented rate. Is that not the goal of education? The board chamber fell silent as the members contemplated this. Finally, Yexlotl spoke again, his crystalline form shimmering with what might have been approval. Dr. Reeves, your passion for teaching is evident. However, we cannot ignore the concerns raised. We will need time to deliberate. Alexis nodded, her heart pounding. I understand. Thank you for hearing me out. As she left the chamber, Alexis felt a mix of hope and anxiety. She had done her best to defend her methods, but would it be enough? The next day, Alexis received a summons to the Chancellor's office. As she entered, she found Kivex in deep conversation with Yexlotl. They both turned to her as she approached. Dr. Reeves, Yexlotl began, his tone unreadable. The board has reached a decision. Alexis held her breath, bracing for the worst. But then, to her surprise, Yexlotl's crystalline form brightened. We have decided to allow you to continue your current teaching methods, with some additional oversight, he announced. Your results are undeniable, and we believe your approach may indeed be valuable in preparing our students for the challenges of the galaxy. Relief washed over Alexis. Thank you, Yexlotl. I won't let you down. Kivex slithered forward, his 4 eyes twinkling. There's more, Dr. Reeves. The board was so impressed by your innovative approach that they want to expand it. They're proposing a new course, Practical Xenobiology and Survival Skills, and they want you to design and teach it. Alexis was stunned. A new course. That's incredible. Thank you both for your support. As she left the office, her mind was already buzzing with ideas for the new course. She had won a significant victory, not just for herself, but for a new approach to interspecies education. The news of the board's decision spread quickly across campus. As Alexis walked to her next class, she found herself surrounded by a group of excited students. Zelxa, the Medusan student, was the first to speak. Professor, is it true? Are you really going to teach us survival skills? Alexis grinned. That's right, Zelxa. We're going to explore how different species adapt to various environments. And yes, that will include some practical survival techniques. Another student, a silicon-based Kristen named Ixtil, chimed in. Will we get to visit different planetary environments? That's the plan, Alexis confirmed. We'll start with simulations, but I'm hoping to organize some off-world field trips later in the semester. The students buzzed with excitement, peppering Alexis with questions about the new course. As they reached the classroom, Alexis felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had faced a significant challenge and come out stronger for it. As she began her lesson, Alexis looked out at the eager faces of her students, a diverse array of life forms from across the galaxy. She realized that she wasn't just teaching biology anymore. She was helping to bridge the gap between worlds, fostering understanding and cooperation among species. All right, class, she began, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating aspects of biology, symbiosis. We'll look at how different species can form mutually beneficial relationships, even in the harshest environments. As she launched into her lesson, Alexis knew that the real adventure was just beginning. She had won the right to teach her way, but now she had to prove that her methods could truly prepare these students for the wonders and dangers of the galaxy. Little did she know that her newfound freedom to teach practical xenobiology and survival skills would soon be put to the ultimate test, one that would challenge not just her students, but the entire university in ways no one could have predicted. The Survival Challenge. Weeks had passed since Dr. Alexis Reeves' victory with the Board of Regents, and her new course, Practical Xenobiology and Survival Skills, had become the talk of the Galactic University of Sciences. Students from all departments clamored to enroll, eager to experience the hands-on learning approach that had made Alexis' classes legendary. On this particular morning, Alexis stood before her class, barely able to contain her excitement. "Today," she announced, her voice carrying through the translator field, "we're going to put your skills to the test with a practical exercise unlike anything you've experienced before." A ripple of anticipation ran through the diverse group of students. Xylix's tentacles glowed brightly, while Ixtil's crystalline form vibrated with what Alexis had come to recognize as excitement. "For the past month, we've been studying survival techniques from various worlds," Alexis continued. "Now it's time to apply that knowledge. We're going on a field trip to Epsilon Eridanib." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Epsilon Eridanib was the barren, rocky world they had used for their first hypothetical life form design exercise. It was a harsh, unforgiving environment that would challenge even the most adaptable species. "But Professor," a floater named Zephyr wafted nervously, "Epsilon Eridanib is uninhabited. Isn't it dangerous?" Alexis nodded, her expression serious. "It is challenging, Zephyr, but that's precisely why we've chosen it. Don't worry, we've taken every precaution. The university has set up a base camp with emergency facilities, and you'll all be equipped with top-of-the-line environmental suits designed to accommodate your unique physiologies." She tapped her datapad, bringing up a holographic map of their destination. "You'll be divided into teams, each with a specific mission to accomplish. These missions will test your ability to apply xenobiological knowledge in a practical setting and to work together despite your biological differences." As Alexis outlined the details of their upcoming excursion, she could see a mix of excitement and apprehension on her students' faces. This was exactly what she had hoped for, a chance to push them out of their comfort zones and help them discover their true potential. "Remember," she concluded, "the goal isn't just to survive, but to thrive. Use your unique abilities, adapt to the environment, and most importantly, work together. Any questions before we prepare for departure?" Hands, tentacles, and various alien appendages shot up across the room. Alexis smiled, ready to address their concerns and fuel their enthusiasm for the challenge ahead. As the day of the field trip arrived, the spaceport buzzed with activity. Students checked and double-checked their equipment, while university staff scurried about, making last-minute preparations. Alexis oversaw it all, her heart swelling with pride at her students' determination. Chancellor Kivex slithered up beside her, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "Dr. Reeves, are you certain about this? The board is still nervous about your methods." Alexis turned to him, her expression confident. "I understand their concerns, Chancellor, but this is exactly what these students need. They're more capable than anyone realizes, even themselves. This experience will prove that." Kivex nodded slowly. "Very well. But please be careful. We're all counting on you." As their ship broke through Epsilon Eridanib's thin atmosphere, the alien landscape came into view. Jagged mountains pierced rust-colored skies, while vast plains of silicon-based vegetation stretched to the horizon. It was beautiful in its desolation, a world untamed and full of potential dangers. The ship touched down near the pre-established base camp, a collection of domed structures designed to withstand the planet's harsh conditions. As the students disembarked, their environmental suits adjusting to the lower gravity and thin atmosphere, Alexis could sense their growing excitement. "All right, everyone," she called out, her voice clear through their suit communicators. "Remember your team assignments and objectives. You have 6 hours to complete your missions and return to base camp. Stay in constant communication, and don't hesitate to call for help if you need it." The teams set off in different directions, each facing unique challenges. Alexis watched them go, then turned to her own task, monitoring their progress and standing ready to provide assistance if needed. For the first few hours, everything went smoothly. Alexis listened with pride as her students tackled obstacles, applying their knowledge of xenobiology to navigate the alien terrain. Xylox's team used their understanding of silicon-based life to cultivate a small garden of native plants. Ixtil's group successfully mapped a complex cave system, using their knowledge of geobiology to predict and avoid dangerous areas. But as the local star began to set, casting long shadows across the barren landscape, things took an unexpected turn. "Professor Reeves," Zephyr's panicked voice crackled over the comm system. "We've encountered some kind of creature. It's not like anything we studied." Alexis felt her heart race as she pulled up the team's location on her datapad. They were in a region that had shown no signs of complex life forms during the initial surveys. "Stay calm, Zephyr. Can you describe what you're seeing?" It's big, Professor. Segmented with multiple limbs. It seems to be silicon-based, but it's moving fast. Too fast. It's chasing us." Alexis's mind raced. This was far beyond the scope of the planned exercise. She had to act fast. "All teams, this is Professor Reeves. We have an emergency situation. Return to base camp immediately. Zephyr's team, keep moving. We're sending help." She turned to the emergency response team, a group of seasoned xenobiologists who had been standing by just in case. "We need to move now." As they raced towards Zephyr's team's last known location, Alexis couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. Had she pushed too far? Put her students in real danger? But there was no time for self-doubt now. Her students needed her. They crested a ridge and saw the scene unfolding in the valley below. Zephyr's team was cornered against a cliff face, facing off against a creature that seemed to defy classification. It was indeed silicon-based, its crystalline body refracting the dying light of the setting star. But it moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for its composition, multiple limbs propelling it forward with frightening speed. As she entered her classroom the following week, Alexis was greeted by an unexpectedly large crowd. Students from other departments had squeezed in, eager to hear about the expedition firsthand. Even a few professors lingered at the back, their interest piqued by the rumors circulating around campus. "Good morning, everyone," Alexis began, her voice carrying over the excited chatter. "I see we have some guests today. Welcome to all. I suppose you're here to discuss our recent field trip." A chorus of affirmations echoed through the room. Alexis couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. "Very well. But first, I want to hear from those who were there. Zephyr, why don't you start? Tell us about your experience facing that silicon-based creature." Zephyr wafted forward, his gaseous form shimmering with a mix of excitement and lingering nervousness. "It was terrifying, Professor, but also exhilarating. When you called out to use my atmospheric manipulation, it was like everything we'd learned suddenly clicked into place. I wasn't just a student anymore. I was a xenobiologist, using my knowledge to solve a real problem." Alexis nodded encouragingly. "Excellent reflection, Zephyr. Ixtil, what about you? How did it feel to use your own crystalline nature to help subdue the creature?" Ixtil's form vibrated as she spoke. "It was a profound moment, Professor. I've always seen my silicon-based biology as something that set me apart from many of my classmates. But in that moment, it became a strength that helped protect the team. It made me realize that our differences aren't just challenges to overcome, they're assets to be utilized." As more students shared their experiences, Alexis could see the impact the event had had on them. They spoke not just of fear and excitement, but of newfound confidence in their abilities and a deeper appreciation for the importance of interspecies cooperation. "You've all learned a valuable lesson," Alexis said as the discussion wound down. "In the face of the unknown, knowledge is your best tool, and diversity is your greatest strength. Each of you brought unique abilities and perspectives to the challenge, and together, you overcame something none of you could have faced alone." She paused, looking out at the rapt faces before her. "But our adventure also raised some important questions. We encountered a life form that hadn't been detected in previous surveys. What does this mean for our understanding of Epsilon Eridani b? For our protocols on exploring new worlds?" The class erupted into a lively debate. Some argued for more thorough survey methods, while others suggested developing better detection technologies. A few even proposed trying to communicate with the silicon-based creatures. As Alexis moderated the discussion, she noticed Dr. Sislisthor slither into the room. The slick professor listened intently, his forked tongue flicking out occasionally in what Alexis had come to recognize as a sign of deep thought. When the class finally ended, Dr. Sislisthor approached Alexis. "Dr. Reeves," he began, his voice a sibilant whisper, "I must admit, I had my doubts about your methods. But after hearing your students today, well, I'm beginning to see the value in your approach." Alexis felt a surge of pride. Coming from Sislisthor, this was high praise indeed. "Thank you, Doctor. I'm glad you could see the students in action." Sislisthor nodded. "Indeed. In fact, I have a proposal for you. The Xenobiology Department is planning an expedition to study a newly discovered ecosystem on Proxima Centauri C. Given recent events, I believe your expertise, and that of your students, could be invaluable." Alexis was momentarily speechless. This was an incredible opportunity, not just for her, but for her students as well. "We'd be honored to join the expedition, Dr. Sislisthor. Thank you for considering us." As Sislisthor slithered away, Alexis felt a renewed sense of purpose. The adventure on Epsilon Eridani had been unexpected, but it had opened doors she never could have anticipated. Over the next few weeks, Alexis threw herself into preparations for the Proxima Centauri expedition. She worked closely with her students, pushing them to apply the lessons they'd learned on Epsilon Eridani to this new challenge. The day of departure arrived all too quickly. As Alexis stood at the spaceport, watching her students board the research vessel, she felt a mix of pride and nervousness. This was a far more extensive mission than their previous field trip, with higher stakes and greater potential for discovery. Chancellor Kvex approached, his sinuous form moving gracefully despite the bustle around them. "Dr. Reeves, a moment before you depart." Alexis nodded, stepping aside with the Chancellor. "I wanted to wish you and your students good fortune on this expedition." Kvex began, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "But I also wanted to advise caution. The board is still watching your methods closely. This mission is an opportunity to prove the value of your approach beyond any doubt." Alexis straightened, meeting the Chancellor's gaze. "I understand, Chancellor. We won't let you down." As their ship broke orbit and set course for Proxima Centauri, Alexis gathered her students in the vessel's observation lounge. The strange, shifting colors of hyperspace swirled outside the viewports, a reminder of the vast distances they were traversing. "All right, team," she began, her voice carrying easily in the confined space. "We've prepared extensively for this mission, but as we learned on Epsilon Eridani, we must always be ready for the unexpected. Remember your training, trust in your abilities, and most importantly, work together." The journey passed quickly, filled with last-minute preparations and excited speculation about what they might find. When they finally arrived at Proxima Centauri C, the sight took their breath away. The planet was a swirling mass of blues and greens, with wispy white clouds dancing across its surface. It was remarkably Earth-like in appearance, but Alexis knew appearances could be deceiving. As they began their descent to the research base on the planet's surface, Dr. Scislisthor briefed the team on their objectives. Our primary goal is to study the unique ecosystem in the planet's equatorial region. Preliminary scans have detected life forms that seem to blur the line between plant and animal. Your task is to observe, document, and, if possible, collect samples for further study. The base was a marvel of xenoengineering, designed to accommodate a wide variety of alien physiologies while protecting its inhabitants from the planet's environment. As they stepped out onto the alien soil for the first time, Alexis felt a familiar thrill of excitement. The landscape before them was like nothing they had ever seen. What at first glance appeared to be a forest was, upon closer inspection, a single, massive organism. Towering structures that resembled trees were connected by a complex network of tendrils, pulsing with bioluminescent energy. Incredible. Xyloxa breathed, her tentacles waving in awe. It's like the entire forest is one giant, living entity. Alexis nodded, her mind racing with the implications. All right, team. Let's begin our survey. Remember, observe first, interact only when necessary, and stay in constant communication. For the next several days, the team worked tirelessly, documenting the strange ecosystem and its inhabitants. They discovered creatures that seemed to be part of the forest itself, able to detach and move independently before reintegrating with the larger organism. The boundary between individual and collective was blurred in ways that challenged their understanding of life itself. It was on the 5th day of their expedition that things took an unexpected turn. Alexis was working with a small group near the edge of the forest organism when Ixtil's crystalline voice rang out in alarm. "Professor, the forest. It's moving." Alexis spun around to see the impossible. The entire forest was shifting, its tendrils withdrawing, its towering structures bending and twisting. It was as if the entire ecosystem was recoiling from some unseen threat. "Everyone, back to base," Alexis commanded, her voice calm despite the surge of adrenaline. "Move quickly but carefully. We don't want to provoke any defensive reactions." As they retreated, Alexis's mind raced. What could cause an entire ecosystem to react this way? And then she saw it, a shimmering distortion in the air, moving rapidly towards them. "Incoming," she shouted. "Brace yourselves." The distortion passed over them like a wave, and suddenly, everything changed. The vibrant colors of the alien world faded to muted grays. The air grew thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe even through their environmental suits. "Status report," Alexis called out, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Is everyone all right?" A chorus of affirmations came back, tinged with confusion and fear. "Professor," Zephyr's voice wavered. "What's happening? Everything feels wrong." Alexis looked around, her trained eye taking in the altered landscape. "If I had to guess, we've just experienced some kind of phase shift. The planet seems to have partially shifted into another dimension or state of being." Dr. Scislisthor's voice crackled over the comm system. "Dr. Reeves, are you seeing this? Our instruments are going haywire. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations across the planet's surface." "We're seeing it, Doctor," Alexis confirmed. "The entire ecosystem seems to have reacted to the shift. We're heading back to base now." But as they turned to leave, Alexis realized with a sinking feeling that the path back to the base was no longer clear. The shifted landscape was alien and disorienting. Familiar landmarks twisted into unrecognizable shapes. "All right, team," Alexis said, forcing confidence into her voice. "This is where all our training pays off. We're in an unknown situation, but we have the knowledge and skills to handle it. Zephyr, can you use your atmospheric manipulation to get a sense of our surroundings?" Zephyr expanded, tendrils of his gaseous form extending outward. "There's something strange in the air, Professor. Energy patterns I've never felt before, but I think I can use them to navigate." "Excellent. Ixtil, your crystalline structure might be able to resonate with the shifted environment. See if you can detect any patterns or pathways we can follow." As her students worked, each applying their unique abilities to the problem. Alexis felt a surge of pride. This was exactly what she had been preparing them for, the ability to adapt and work together in the face of the truly unknown. Slowly but surely, they began to make progress through the shifted landscape. The forest organism, initially withdrawn, seemed to recognize them as non-threats. Tendrils of bioluminescent energy reached out, guiding them along safe paths. "It's helping us," Xyloxa realized, her voice filled with wonder. "The forest, it recognizes us." Alexis nodded, her mind racing with the implications. It's more than just a collective organism. It's sentient, capable of memory and decision-making on a massive scale. As they neared the location where their base should be, the shimmering distortion passed over them again. Colors flooded back into the world, and the air cleared. They had shifted back to their original phase. The base came into view, a welcome sight after their harrowing journey. As they approached, Alexis could see Dr. Scislisthor and the other researchers rushing out to meet them. "Dr. Reeves," Scislisthor called out, his usual composure shaken. "What happened out there?" "Our sensors detected." "Well, we're not sure what they detected." Alexis looked back at the forest organism, which had returned to its initial state, pulsing with bioluminescent energy. "Doctor, I think we've just made first contact with a type of life we've never encountered before. And I have a feeling our understanding of biology is about to change dramatically." As the team gathered to debrief and analyze their findings, Alexis couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. They had faced an incredible challenge and come through it not just intact, but with knowledge that could revolutionize their field. Looking at her students, she saw not the nervous newcomers who had first entered her classroom, but confident, capable xenobiologists ready to push the boundaries of scientific understanding. The expedition to Proxima Centauri T had turned into something far more profound than any of them could have imagined. And as Alexis prepared to report their findings to the university, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new era of discovery, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about life in the universe.